Next to me is the 997.2 GT3RS, and it's an absolute beast. With an 8,500 RPM redline, killer looks, and insane amounts of grip, this GT3RS will go down in history as one of the best generations of all time. And it only comes with a manual transmission. So what is this car like to drive, and is it worth its lofty price tag? Today we're gonna find out exactly that. In 2011, there was actually two variants of the GT3RS, the 3.8 and the 4.0. And while the 4.0s have skyrocketed to nearly $1 million, the 3.8 is no slouch. In the rear of this 911, 450 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. And despite the fact that it has a manual transmission, it can still rocket from 0 to 60 miles an hour in just 3.5 seconds. So what makes the 997.2 so special? Well, an endless amount of things, but this was the last generation GT3RS that you could get with a manual. When they moved on to the 991 and now the 992, they decided in favor of faster lap times to go PDK only. And while that does make sense on the track to make the fastest car possible, it loses some of the spirit that this generation of car has. There's something magnificent of having 3 pedals and a manual transmission, especially when the gearbox is this incredible. All right, guys, let's take it for a spin. The interior of the GT3RS is pure race car and purpose-built in the best way possible. They've shaved 55 pounds off of the already lightweight GT3. You'll notice there's no door handles. There's just these red straps, which is so cool. The interior is littered in Alcantara. We don't have rear seats. The European cars came with a roll cage. A lot of people install a roll cage aftermarket in their GT3RSs in the US. Everything is covered in Alcantara or nice leather. Even leather on the A-pillars, Alcantara on the roof. But my favorite part is this Alcantara shift knob. Feels so good in your hand, as does the steering wheel. Although I'm not the biggest fan of this little bit of plastic that's right at 9 and 3 where you grip your hands. Other than that, I literally don't have a single negative thing to say about the 997.2 GT3RS, other than the fact that I don't have one. We've got the car in the stiff suspension mode and sport mode, which opens up the baffles and lets this flat 6 sound absolutely insane as it rushes to its 8,500 RPM redline. Listen to this. That wasn't even all the way to redline. I mean, name another car that sounds better than that. Porsche has proven that you don't need a massive, heavy V12 in order to have a glorious sounding engine. Now, one of the highlights of the GT3RS, all Porsches in general, but in particular, the steering rack of this hydraulic, no power assistance 997.2, the steering feel is absolutely incredible. It's so responsive, and the turn-in feels so nice, even when, I mean, I'm driving at 20%, 15% the capability of this car right now, and even just the slightest amount of turn-in feels so great. It's something that modern cars are losing in today's day and age. Both the sound, because everyone's going forced induction or fully electric, then there's no sound, and going electronic assisted steering, you don't get that incredible feel of the initial turn-in, and then you don't get that feedback and communication between the tires and your hands. It really has a telepathic level of communication between the road and your body. The clutch is incredibly stiff, so if you plan on daily driving this, which nobody's buying a GT3RS to daily drive, and you live in a traffic-prone area, it's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable. But out on roads like this, where you can actually let the car breathe, the clutch and transmission setup is just a dream. So this 3RS has the optional carbon ceramic brakes, which allow it to decelerate from 60 miles an hour to 0 in just 98 feet, making it one of the quickest decelerating cars ever made, whether it's a modern car or this, a 2011. It also has dynamic engine mounts. Those were optional on the standard GT3, but they come standard on the GT3RS. What it does is, in normal driving environments, to make the car a little bit more manageable at low speeds, we'll turn the suspension back into normal mode. It's supposed to loosen up the car a little bit and feel more comfortable. Now, the thing I love about the GT3RS is it really is never comfortable. It's a purpose-built race car that you can drive on the street, but absolutely shines on the track. But when you start driving more quickly, the dynamic engine mounts tighten to give you a more solid feel between the engine, the chassis, your body. It honestly is a almost spiritual experience. The seats in this car, tight carbon buckets, are so nice, hold you in place super well. We are on a crazy road right now in the middle of a marsh with a Prius in front of me, which is just classic. Get out of the way, Prius. I absolutely love this car so much so that I've been looking online at used ones, hoping that they crash in value so I can pick one up and then they skyrocket back in value. New, I can't believe it, but this car's MSRP was only $133,000 back in 2011. What I would do to rewind to 2011 and pick one of these things up. Although I was just graduating high school then, so definitely wouldn't have been able to afford one. These days, a super high mileage example in a non-desirable color will set you back 200 grand, slightly lower mileage, 250, but something like this is $300,000 plus. And like I mentioned before, the 4.0 generation motor variant, slightly different exterior appearance and some slight changes in the car. Those are over 800 grand these days. That car is killer, and I hope I can drive one of those sometime soon. Well, I'm gonna switch over to a point of view camera right now to really show you what this thing is like to drive from behind the driver's seat. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video. So like all Porsches, the ignition is on the left side of the car to commemorate the 24-hour of Le Mans races that started on the outside of the vehicle, where people had to jump in, put the key in, and throw it into gear all at the same time. Gonna go ahead and take off that heavy clutch. I love the fact that when you have the clutch in, it's got this incredible chatter to it. Porsche doesn't want to hide the race car feel of this vehicle. That was not even in sport mode. Listen to how much louder the exhaust gets once we put it actually into sport mode and give it some gas. The steering feel really is absolutely brilliant in this thing. And it's hard to come up with a highlight of this car. Like, what is the best part of the GT3RS? There are so many good components of it. That flat six, the 8,500 RPM redline, the exhaust note, the steering. The GT3RS, the highlight is that it has all of those in one package. And it also is a spectacularly good looking car. But when you do get it near its redline, it's hard not to be obsessed with that Porsche flat six.